Okay, how does this compare with the contemporary moral and ethical discourse? Where does divine command fit in the current moral discourse in the modern secular West? Well, it's irrelevant, right? There's no God. God is dead, Nietzsche told us, right? And the West has been secularizing for centuries. So sexual morality is separated from religion. We saw at the beginning, becomes thoroughly personal and subjective. That's true of all morality. It becomes a question of emotivism and, personal taste and so forth, right? You have the centrality of these sort of ersatz notions, like replacement notions or replacing religion. So freedom, we talked about, right? This kind of fetishization of personal autonomy, whereas Islam is based on servitude and submission to God. This notion of autonomy, right? If you know what it means, auto is self, nomos is a law. Autonomy literally means, and this was Kant who really talked a lot about autonomy, it means to give oneself the law. Any Muslim can immediately feel, once you translate it, how blasphemous that is. Because God is the lawgiver, right? He's the Sharia, the lawgiver, and the Sharia is his way, his law, right? We don't give ourselves the law. This is to make gods of ourselves, literally, right? So God and his messenger alone have the right to legislate, as we saw in that verse, right? That when God and his messenger have decided upon a matter, it is not for a believing man or a woman to have a say in it. And then this notion of authenticity we talked about, we would say as Muslims in response to that, yes, we want to be authentic, but we are only our true authentic selves as human beings when we have found and submitted to our Creator, because that is the objective, inherent purpose with which he has created all human beings. As the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, every human being was born on the fitrah, right? And so coming back to your internal nature and submitting to your Creator, that is the homecoming of every single human being. If they don't realize it, they don't realize it's to their own detriment, but that is everyone's true homecoming, is back to God. And so consequences, so divine command, we says irrelevant in the modern, ethical and moral discourse. What about consequences? Well, again, consequentialism, utilitarianism is the dominant ethical theory, right? But the consequences are judged in purely subjective terms, if at all, and also in purely material and in this worldly terms. It's a secular notion of which consequences really matter. And we would say that Allah knows our interests better than we do, and he alone has full knowledge of all consequences, and those consequences are related both to this world and to the next world as well. And then finally, virtue and moral character. We talked about virtue as an old-fashioned and quaint term in modern parlance. Sexual behavior is seen as irrelevant to moral character, right? You can do whatever you want sexually as long as it was consensual. No one sees that as having any impact on your moral character. It's just considered totally irrelevant because sex doesn't have any meaning anymore. It doesn't have any moral meaning either. There's no moral kind of code or norm attached to it, as we said, right? And so this also downplaying of virtue and of moral character, right? This, again, the Quran refutes this. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. He says in the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ. The day of judgment is that day on which neither wealth nor progeny will avail a person, right? Except for one who comes with a sound heart. The only thing that will avail you on that day is coming to God with a sound heart.